Hello everyone. Welcome to my channel Economics by Dipankar. So in today's video, we are going to discuss about basic econometrics. What are the important concepts or chapters that you need to go through for preparation for your MA Economics entrance examination. And in fact, this book is useful not only for JNU but also for other universities, like if you are applying for SAU or even for Delhi School of Economics. So the first thing that you need, if you don't have basic econometrics, you can download, or better, if you purchase the book of Basic Econometrics by Damodar Gujrati. It's one of the best book because it's being taught at the undergrad level in Delhi University. And secondly, it's like a kind of guide. Most of the things given over here are self-explanatory, and it's very easy to understand. So in today's video, we are going to discuss what are the important chapters that you need to go through chapters that you need to go through. And also we are also going to discuss what kind of questions are being asked, what kind of questions are being asked in the entrance examination. So all those of you who are preparing for JNU entrance examination or South Asian University, Delhi School of Economics, Hyderabad Central University, or even CDS, if you need previous year question paper, do let us know and subscribe this channel because we are going to discuss some of the important topics that we need to see. And over the period of time, we are not going to provide any classes as such, but then through video lectures, we'll try to solve as many queries as possible. And we'll also be discussing like what are the important books that you need to go through and what are the important chapters, because it's not useful to read any particular book, because in some books you'll find a few chapters are important, in other books few other chapters are important. So in today's video, we are going to discuss about econometrics. And econometrics is important because you see roughly around 10 questions will be asked from econometrics. And this is one single book which will, cover all the 10 questions, not only for JNU, but also for other central universities. Okay. And if you don't have this book, then do let me know. You can text me, WhatsApp me, or, uh, you can message us on 844 887 8849, और इस पे आप मैसेज कीजिए and we'll try to solve all your queries. So first, let me go through some of the important chapters that you need to find, and what are the important chapters and what are the important things that you need to go through. Okay. So part one is the most important, or you can say most significant part with respect to entrance examination. The second thing that, and if you ask about some of the important chapters that you need to go through, chapter 3, chapter 4, like classical normal linear regression model, what are the important properties or assumptions, those things are important. Second is two variable regression, interval estimation and hypothesis testing, uh, point estimation and your interval estimation, both are important. Extension to the two variable linear regression model, multiple regression model. Uh, you can go through all these things, and suppose if we come to next part of part 2, with the if we look at the purpose with which we have to read this book, then we need to understand multiclonarity. These things are also dealt in part 1. You don't have to go in details about this. It's just that you need to find out what are the different tests to detect multiclonarity tests. And first is test, and the second is how to get rid of it. So for this purpose, multi-heteroscedasticity, autocorrelation, these are the three important assumptions of a classical linear regression model. And all that you need to do is understand what are these things and what are the different tests and how to get it, because in what we have seen is that most of the time questions are being asked on the properties of these uh, concepts. So we must understand what are the important concepts. Next, simultaneous equation model identification problem, these are a bit tricky. You might, if better if you leave all these things: panel data regression, non-linear regression model. Yeah, non-linear regression model, sometimes they might ask one question, but then for the purpose of JNU intrinsic examination or even DSC, you might leave part three. Again, this appendix is very important. And even in appendix, you need to go through rudiments in matrix algebra and matrix approach to linear regression model better if you see, otherwise not required. And some statistical concept. So this is also not very significant. These two are very important. So, and in among, if you ask among A and B, so A is most important. Okay. So now what we are going to do is that topic wise or chapter wise, I'll outline what are the important concepts or things that you need to go through. You may leave chapter one not so significant. Chapter two important. You need to find out what are the some of the terms or the concepts like linearity in variable and linearity in parameter. What are the two different concepts? Like if we write a regression equation, y is equal to alpha plus beta xi plus ui. So this is linearity in both variables and parameter. But then if suppose yi is equal to alpha plus beta square xi plus ui, or if there is equation like ui is equal to alpha plus beta xi square plus ui. So you need to understand what is the difference. And just this stochastic specification in PFR, you can have a look. It's population regression function. So nothing a big deal. Yeah. This chapter is very important. Chapter 3. A two variable regression model, the problem of estimation. Okay. Method of ordinary least square. Why do we say ordinary least square? Because we try to minimize it. Classical assumptions underlying the method of least square. And when we talk about assumptions, it's about a heteroscedasticity, no multicularity, or autocorrelation. So this 3.2 is again very much important. Precision of standard errors of least estimate squares, properties of least square estimates, Gauss Markov theorem. You just need to find out what is Gauss Markov theorem and what are the assumptions of Gauss Markov theorem. And we often refer to it as PLUA, based linear unbiased estimator. So the coefficient of determination. Many of the questions are being asked from coefficient of determination. What is this R square? And what is this goodness of fate and how it is being related to other concepts. Linearity and unbiased properties of least square variance and standard errors. What is the relationship? This you can look into appendix. Just go through it. You don't need to go deep into it. But if we talk about important topics, then 3.3 is important. 3.4 is important. 3.5 is very important. And then again, you may leave all these things. Now coming to the next equation. Okay. Now, chapter 4, classical normal linear regression model, regression model. The properties of distribution of disturbances, this UI term. This is the error term, and we have to minimize the error term. Normality assumption. So, what is and why normality assumption? Properties of OLS estimator, again, very important. Method of maximum likelihood. I mean, it's important that you go through it, but not very deep. Okay. So in we talk about chapter 4, the important part that you need to go is 4.1. Okay, this is the introduction part, nothing big deal. So you might leave, but then 4.2 normative assumption of UI, you should go through it. And the second is 4.3. So, again, this is very small chapter, so not a big deal. Again, chapter number 5, two variable regression, interval estimation, and hypothesis testing. This is again one of the very most important topic. And each and every year a question will be asked from this chapter number 5. So confidence interval for beta, a confidence interval for beta 1, beta 2. What is beta 1? Two variables. So like there is alpha plus beta 1 x1 plus or minus whatever beta 2 x2. So again we have two variables, so it's called two variable regression model. Again there will be relationship between beta 1 and beta 2. How do you and what do you do with it? Hypothesis testing. What is hypothesis testing? The confidence interval approach. What is this confidence interval? One-sided or two-tail test, and one-sided, two-sided and two-tail test, and one-sided one-tail test. Again, this is very important. So, point 5.6 very essential. 5.5 very important, and confidence interval for this one, sigma square. So again, it is very important. Hypothesis testing approach, coefficient of t test. So see, in hypothesis testing there are different tests. Okay, t test, f test, chi-square test. So there are different tests, and you should know or understand. In even there is a relationship between t, f, and chi-square. So you must understand this relationship between t, f, and chi-square. Okay, hypothesis testing. What is the meaning of accepting or rejecting? Why this is very significant? So let me just outline what are the important parts. So 5.4, 5.5, 5.6, 5.7, 5.8. Okay, these are important things. So why we are saying that when we need to look at 5.8, what is the meaning of hypothesis testing and accepting or rejecting a null hypothesis? Like if there is a null hypothesis of, let's say, the population growth, let's say this lies between, let's say, 2 and 1, and we reject null hypothesis. So what does this mean? And there comes the issue of type 1, type 1 error, and type 2 error. Okay. Then we have this level of significance. How do we choose level of significance? And if level of significance, let's say alpha is 5%, what does this mean? What does this mean? Alpha is equal to 5%. It is the 5%, we are rejecting 5%, we are not rejecting. How does this value changes with respect to type 1 error, type 2 error? And what is this p value? And what is the relationship between p value and level of significance? What is this p value relation, or that you can say p value and alpha? What is the relationship between p value and alpha? This is very important. Regression analysis and variance. Application of regression analysis, mean predictor, individual prediction. And again, there are different tests of normative test. You might, if not required, you can skip all these things. This priority distribution, but then you should look at variance of mean prediction, variance of individual prediction. Okay. Now, the second concept is related to, again, in this chapter number 6. This is regression to origin model. So what does this mean? Is like we usually say this is our regression line where this is your alpha, and if we look at this slope, so this becomes beta. Now, how does this changes with respect to such kind of thing when the alpha, or we can say intercept, is, in this case intercept is is 0. So when intercept is 0, we say regression to origin. So how does this value r square is different for or how are we going to interpret for non-origin models and those for regression which has regression through origins. So this is 0. Okay. And the only difference in between these two is that let's take an example of we can say consumption function. Consumption function. Okay. And let's say demand for cars. Demand for cars. So in consumption function, whatever is your income level, or even, and this is your, let's say, income. So even if your income is 0, you are still going to have some amount of consumption. And this is what we call at intercept. But then if you look at demand for car, if so this is how it should be. When your income increases, demand for car increases. Okay. And this is your, let's say, demand for food, and this is your demand for cars. Okay. So this is for origin. So we what we need to understand over here is like if there are two given equations, regression equations, and if there is a situation where you have to pick, let's say, for any commodity or any, let's say, item where the income can be, or you can say the regression line can be through the origin or regression line has intercept, depends whether the item is a necessity or a luxury. So in case of luxury, in the maximum chances are there that the regression will be through origin. Why? It's not the case that even in the case of zero income, you'll still consume some amount of luxury item, but in case of necessity, we are still going to consume. So this is the basic difference. And a log hyperbola, reciprocal models, log linear models. We just need to understand what are log linear models and how are log linear models interpreted. There is a rate of growth, okay, or one is growth rate, growth rate. So, what is the difference between rate of growth rate and what is rate of growth and growth rate? Like all these log linear log models. So, all is about the interpretation of beta. How do we interpret beta? So, this is the case. Okay. And we can leave these all chapters, multiple regression, normality, assumption, analysis of variance. You should go through 8.4 analysis of variance. Testing the equality of two regression coefficient important. 8.6 important, a T approach. And also you need to understand a why and how. T test, chi-square test, F test, how and why they are being used. Okay. Dummy variable regression model not so important. So you should leave. In chapter 10, that is part 2, just we need to understand what are the basic assumptions of Gauss Markov assumptions, and if those assumptions are relaxed, then what are the complications or implications on regression model? So you need to understand that. Okay, high and imperfect multiplicity. What are the theoretical consequences? So this is very important. Theoretical consequences of multiplicity. This is very significant. Okay. And again, 10.4 is important, 10.5 is very important. Remedies or detection, like what are the different tests to detect multiplicity? You need to understand or go through this. Okay. Again, heteroscedasticity, 11.3 is important, difference between OLS and GLS, ordinary least square and generalized least square. 11.2, estimation, just it's a single page, so you can go through. In consequences of using OLS in presence of heteroscedasticity, if there is a heteroscedasticity and you are still using, let's say, OLS, ordinary least square, then what are the consequences? Detection, again, detection is all about different tests, informal methods, and what are the remedies. They might not ask about remedies, but then it's not a big thing. You can go through it. Again, autocorrelation. Autocorrelation usually in time series model better if you look. Okay. So yeah, like when we saw talked about detection, so here they have already given detection of autocorrelation like Darwin Watson test or BG test. So hmm. Again, 2.9 pure autocorrelation generalized least square. Just go for once. Rest you don't have to do anything. Now, if you get into chapters like what are the important things that we need to go through this, why I prefer this book for entrance exam preparation is that many of the important points they have already highlighted or given in bold, like regression line. Okay, it shows average height of sons increases with the father's height. So they will, and it's well explained. Okay, and like price elasticity. So in regression line, how to understand when it is price elasticity, elasticity of demand. These are some of the different concepts and data when you are going through it. It's always useful to understand, like when we are trying to, represent price elasticity or elasticity of demand through regression line, then whether it is simple linear regression model or let's say about non-linear regression models, like what kind of regression model do we need to use to represent those things. So next, chapter 1.1 you should leave because not a big deal. Yeah, like we were discussing about linearity in parameters, okay, and linearity in variables. Like here is x square, so it's non-linear. Now, in case like when it is non-linear parameter like beta square, okay, so this is non-linear regression model. So, what is the difference and how are we going to interpret is very important. Okay, stochastic error term. Again, chapter 3 is important. Yeah, chapter 3. Least square criteria. Why are we going to? So, this is basically all about minimizing the error terms. Why do we use a least square error method? And you don't have to understand all these things. I mean, I think how to get these values beta square, you don't have to. But then you must know what is the formula. They might ask what is the formula. So they might ask, they may give you a equation. They might ask what is the actual formula. So again, point estimator and interval estimator, what is this difference in say chapter 5? So, what is the difference between point estimator and interval estimator? And again, even in the case of null hypothesis, that's when we are when we are doing this hypothesis testing. Even in case of null hypothesis, it is point or like we say beta is equal to 10. So, and we say beta is less than 11 but greater than 9. So, how does this hypothesis testing null hypothesis varies? Okay, this you must know what is specification bias or specification error, heteroscedasticity, or unequal variance. Unequal variance means when we are making any kind of assumption, our assumption is like this is your regression line, then our data will vary between all these variants. But in case of heteroscedasticity, it might be the case of like this. Our data might vary like this. So our variance changes. So this is again one of the assumption. Okay. No correlation, no serial correlation, no autocorrelation, negatively correlated. So all these things are very important. So that's what I told you about the assumptions, nature of variables. Okay. Properties of ordinary least square Gauss Markov theorem. It must be linear. It must be blue, based linear unbiased estimator. Okay. सो होपफुली अभी तक आप लोगों को पता चल गया होगा कि दैट स्टैटिस्टिक्स में या इकोनोमेट्रिक्स में जब हम लोगों को करना है तो क्या क्या कैसे कैसे हम लोगों को कवर अप करना है जैसे यहाँ पे दिया है कि वेरी क्लोजली यू नो आर इज कोफिशिएंट ऑफ कोरिलेशन very much different closely related so how this is different okay degree of freedom measure of degree of association between two variables it can be computed or definition दिया गया तो again you must know how to calculate this formula again becomes important which is known as sample correlation coefficient so we must understand all these terms you know so this is correlation coefficient and again this is your r so what does this mean coefficient of correlation between x and y where actual yi and this is estimated yi namely y hat I squared coefficient of correlation okay now numerical example you may leave it again chapter 4 is important okay yeah normally distributed again all these things standard normal distribution and how do you use or how do you represent a standard normal distribution so this is the way okay mean variance how do you calculate this variance okay when your parameter is normally distributed and this is again your test okay so hopefully I think I have made the point how to and when we are looking at this book what should be our approach the base thing that you need to do before going through this book is that try to understand how and the way in which the questions are being asked. So once you understand the pattern, and the pattern cannot be understood just by looking at maybe 1 or 2 years question paper. We have last 10 years question paper. If you need those question paper, do messages, and then you'll understand the pattern in which the questions are being asked. One thing that we will also do is that we will, find out maybe we will discuss the question which are being asked from these all topics especially uh, econometrics part and then you can understand how the questions are being asked and what should be our approach to cover all those topics or sections so hopefully the things that we have discussed now it might be useful so this confidence interval 1 minus alpha and what is this alpha beta so you must understand this okay so I assume whatever we have discussed till now it's very helpful for you and if it has been helpful please like the video and subscribe the channel so that you can get all the updates as quickly as possible so thank you and all the best